Hey, this is Unit 9, and we're on topic number 2. Topic number 2 is called the zero product property, and very often we abbreviate that ZPP, zero product property. Zero product property has to do with this word product, which in math means the answer to a multiplication problem. So essentially, what this means is it's a very special property that happens only when we multiply and our answer is 0. So to think about it, we're going to start with this problem. It says let x, y equals 0. That really means x multiplied by y, our answer is 0. If that's true, I want to think about values of x and values of y that if I multiply them, I'll get 0. There's an infinite amount of options. I'm going to write a couple. I could have the value of x be 10 and the value of y be 0, and that works because 10 times 0 is 0. How I'd write my answer is as a point, 10, 0. Let's think of some other values. We just need an x and a y that multiply to get 0. We could have 0 be the x and 125 be the y, because 0 times 125 is 0. We could also have the point 0, 5, or we could have the point 0, 0. And the key here is that in all of these points, at least one of the values, in this case both of the values, at least one of the values has to be 0. Let's look at this next one, xy equals 24. If we have two numbers that multiply to get 24, let's write out some options. We have, let's say, 6 and 4. Those multiply to get 24. 12 and 2. 24 and 1. 8 and 3. These numbers don't have that property. Look at these numbers. There's no such case that one of these is 0, right? These are both just integers, where up here, one of the values must be 0. And that is essentially the zero product property. It says that if we multiply expressions and the answer, I'll say, and the product is 0, one or both of the expressions must be 0. If we multiply expressions and the product that we get is 0, one or both of the expressions must be 0. And I like to write this right next to it over here. I like to write what this would look like. So when I say expressions, I mean we could have anything in parentheses multiplied by something else in parentheses, and we get 0. If that happens, one or both of those must be 0. Okay, let's look at some examples of how this works. So every one of these examples, if you notice right away, has two sets of parentheses. One set of parentheses, two sets of parentheses. Let's look at the next one. One set, two set, and they're multiplied. One set, two set. Number 4 looks slightly different. I don't have parentheses, but I have one thing, 2x, multiplied by parentheses. I can actually, and I want you to do this, put parentheses around the 2x. So every one of these problems has two things multiplied, and also every one of these problems is equal to 0. Equals 0, equals 0, equals 0, equals 0. So to solve this, what has to happen is that one or both of these must be equal to 0. So we have to figure out how to make these zeros. To do that, I want you to actually set this up. I want you to write equals 0, and on the other side, write what's in this red parentheses, x plus 3. And I need to solve this equation. X plus 3 equals 0. I want to find the value of x that makes this true. To do that, I solve this equation by subtracting 3 on both sides. And I get x equals 0 minus 3 is negative 3. That's one solution. Then over here I have x minus 4 equals 0. I took what's in parentheses, set it equal to 0. To solve this, add 4 to both sides. These cancel. I get x equals 0 plus 4, which is 4. Those are my two answers. All right. Next problem, same thing. Red and a blue. I'm going to take this one. I'm going to set it equal to 0. X minus 7 equals 0. Solve for x by adding 7 to both sides. X equals 7. Some of these you might be able to do in your head. Take this 7. If you plug it in right here, 7 minus 7 equals 0. And you might be able to do that in your head. All right, here, x minus 6 equals 0. Add 6 to both sides. X equals 6 is our answer. Okay, number 3. Number 3, I have two sets of parentheses. Let's start with the red. 2x plus 6 equals 0. To solve this, subtract 6 on both sides. 2x equals 0 minus 6 is negative 6. I haven't solved this yet. I need to get x by itself. To do that, I need to get rid of this 2 by dividing by 2 on both sides. And I get x equals negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. All right, x plus 1. X plus 1, set it equal to 0. Subtract 1 on both sides, and I get x equals 0 minus 1 is negative 1. All right, number 4 is the one that looked a little bit different, remember? We put 2x in parentheses. So I'm going to start with the right side, the one that looks familiar. X plus 8 equals 0. Subtract 8 on both sides, and I get x equals 0 minus 8, or negative 8. Now let's go over here. Every time I've done this, I have taken whatever is in parentheses and set it equal to 0. So I'm going to do that. 2x equals 0. This problem says 2 multiplied by a number equals 0. I have to undo this to solve. To undo multiplication, I divide by 2. Divide by 2. And I get x equals 0 divided by 2, which is 0. All right, the last thing I'm going to write here, it says that the zeros, so using the ZPP, all of these values that I just found, I found 2 for every single problem. Zeros are also called the x-intercepts. The x-intercepts are always the points that cross the x-axis, and they look like this: some number, comma, 0. That's what an x-intercept looks like. So I'm going to go up to all my solutions, and I want you guys to do this with me. Go up to number 1. We found 2 different solutions for x, negative 3 and 4. Why negative 3 is special is if I plug it in as an input, my output will be 0. I can write my answer like this: input negative 3, output 0. Next one, 4. If I plug 4 in, 4 minus 4 is 0. I can write this as input of 4, output of 0. So these mean the same thing, it's just a different way to write your solution. You could write it as a value of x, or you could write it as an x-intercept. Okay, let's go to the next one and just write our answer like that. We had 7, that means we can write our answer as an input of 7, an output of 0. Our x was 6, I can write my answer as 6, comma, 0, input, output. Down here, I had negative 3. I can write negative 3, comma, 0. That's one solution. And this one would be negative 1, comma, 0. I think you guys could probably figure out the last one, right? 0 is our input. That means input 0, output 0. That's the origin. And this one, negative 8, 0. All right, that's it for your homework tonight. Your homework is homework number 2. On that homework assignment, you will also need to look up how to factor. If you forget how to factor, directions for that are in Unit 8 notes packet if you need a refresher on how to factor for homework number 2. All right, good luck.